It was supposed to be a perfect Saturday. The grill was already smoking, the scent of hickory drifting through the yard, and laughter from my nieces and nephews filled the air. My wife had just set out a tray of ribs so good they could make a grown man cry when the side gate slammed open. Two men in dark uniforms walked in like they owned the Placino knock. No introduction, just a hard glare and a barked order. Shut it down. This gathering is in violation of HOA regulations. I blinked, spatula in hand, trying to process what I was hearing. Excuse me? Who are you? The taller one flashed something that looked vaguely like a badge but not enough to pass the smell test. Neighborhood Compliance Enforcement, he said, like that meant something. And behind them, stepping in with the air of a queen inspecting her kingdom, was Karen, HOA president, resident nightmare, and the self-proclaimed guardian of community order. She didn't even glance at me before announcing to the crowd, "This is an unauthorized assembly. Too many guests. Amplified music. Alcohol visible from the street, clear violations of our bylaws. Officers, issue the citations." My cousin Marcus, who'd been manning the cooler, let out a sharp laugh. "Lady, this is private property. You have no jurisdiction here." Karen's lips curled in a smug little smile. "Oh, I think you'll find they do." She motioned to the fake cops, who started taking out clipboards and snapping pictures of our guests. My wife stepped forward, her voice low but cutting. "Those badges aren't real. And those uniforms? I've seen better costumes at a kid's Halloween parade." That's when I decided enough was enough. I pulled out my phone and dialed a number I didn't use often, but when I did, things moved fast. "Yeah," I said when the line picked up. "We've got two men impersonating officers and trespassing at our residence. Oh, and our HOA president is here directing them." The voice on the other end was calm, measured. "Stay where you are. We're 5 minutes out." Karen caught my eye and smirked. "Call whoever you want. By the time they get here, the citations will be issued, and you'll be fined into compliance." I just smiled back. "Karen, you have no idea who you're dealing with." For minutes later, the side gate swung open again. This time, it wasn't two costumed clowns, it was 3 FBI agents in dark windbreakers, gold lettering bright against the black. They moved in with quiet authority, one speaking into a radio, another heading straight for the officers who had been harassing my guests. The taller agent pulled a real badge one that made the fake ones look like cereal box prizes and said, "Gentlemen, you're under arrest for impersonating federal law enforcement." The entire yard went silent, except for the faint sizzle of the ribs on the grill. Karen's smug expression faltered for the first time as the agents cuffed her 2 hired goons. "This is ridiculous," she snapped. "They were just enforcing community rules." The lead agent turned to her, eyebrow raised. "And you authorized them to pose as law enforcement?" Her mouth opened, then shut, then opened again. "You theory contractors." The agent's tone was pure ice. "Contractors who are wearing counterfeit federal badges and carrying forged citation books. That makes you complicit." My cousin muttered, "Somebody's going to jail." And I had to bite back a grin. But the real twist came when one of the agents looked over at my wife and asked, "Are those ribs?" She smiled. "Yes, sir. You hungry?" And just like that, the tension broke. While 2 of them processed the arrests, the third accepted a plate and said, "Don't mind us. We'll finish this paperwork and let you get back to your barbecue." Karen, on the other hand, was being walked out the gate. Her sun hat tilted awkwardly as an agent held her elbow. She kept sputtering about legal authority and community standards, but every word sounded smaller. The FBI left with 3 sets of handcuffs full, and we still had the rest of the afternoon to celebrate. The FBI didn't just leave with Karen and her 2 fake enforcers, they left with a box full of evidence they'd taken from her SUV parked out front. I caught a glimpse of it as they loaded it into the back of an unmarked Suburban. Binders labeled with neighbors' names, photos taken through windows, and a stack of pre-filled violation forms with forged signatures. It was enough to make my stomach turn. The next morning, my phone lit up like a Christmas tree. Neighbors who'd never spoken to me before were calling, texting, or stopping by the gate. They'd seen the FBI trucks, they'd heard the rumors, and now they wanted the truth. I told them exactly what had happened, no embellishments, no theatrics, just the cold, ugly facts. Karen had hired 2 men to dress as police officers and crash our family barbecue, fully intending to intimidate and extort us with fake fines. And she'd been caught red-handed in front of 24 witnesses. By noon, the HOA group chat was a wildfire. People were digging up their own encounters with Karen's officers from the past year, mysterious citations for things they hadn't done, threats about non-existent community laws, and warnings that the police would get involved if they didn't pay up. One neighbor even shared a screenshot of a Venmo transaction to a suspicious account that matched one of the men arrested. 3 days later, Karen's mugshot hit the county sheriff's website. The charges were stacked high: conspiracy to commit fraud, impersonating law enforcement by proxy, harassment and misuse of HOA funds. But that was just the appetizer. A week later, the U.S. Attorney's Office announced federal charges: wire fraud, mail fraud, and conspiracy against rights. I almost felt bad for her. Almost. The trial didn't take long to capture headlines. Local reporters camped outside the courthouse, sniffing for any scrap of drama. On day 1, the prosecution laid it all out. Karen had been running a little HOA empire built on fear, forging documents and fabricating officer visits to squeeze money out of residents. She'd even used HOA funds to pay her fake cops, covering it up as security expenses. The courtroom was packed with neighbors, many of whom had their own stories ready for the stand. My turn came on day 3. I walked up, swore in, and told the jury exactly what had happened that afternoon: how the fake cops stormed in, how Karen ordered them to start writing citations, and how the FBI walked in like a scene from a movie. I could feel the jurors leaning in when I described the moment the agents snapped the cuffs on her goons. You could almost hear the collective thought: she really thought she'd get away with this. Karen's defense was pitiful. Her lawyer tried to argue she didn't know the badges were fake, that she'd been misled by the men she hired. But the prosecution had those binders, the pre-filled citations, and a recorded voicemail she'd left one of the men telling him to hit them with the official talk so they get scared. Watching that voicemail play in court was the moment I knew it was over. When the verdict came, it was swift: guilty on all counts. The judge sentenced her to 5 years in federal prison, plus restitution to every homeowner she'd scammed. The HOA board voted unanimously to remove her permanently, and the county opened an investigation into the rest of the board's finances. Within 2 months, the HOA as we knew it was dissolved, replaced by a voluntary neighborhood council with no power to fine anyone. The best part? The FBI agents who had saved our barbecue showed up at our first free neighborhood celebration. They brought an apple pie, signed the new community banner, and even posed for a photo under the grill canopy. One of them laughed and said, "Not every arrest ends with ribs, but we wouldn't mind if it did." Now, when I walk past the gate where Karen once barged in with her fake cops, I remember the look on her face when she realized she wasn't in control anymore. The neighborhood feels lighter, freer, like we finally shook off a weight we didn't know we were all carrying. And we've still got that wooden sign from that day hanging on my back fence. Barbecue equals not a crime. It's a reminder that standing your ground, together, can end even the nastiest reign of power. If someone like Karen tried to police your private life with fake authority, would you call their bluff, or let them push you around?